Loud. Hello, thank you for joining the KindHuman Story. Button. We have a special guest. Loud. Oh, what's going on? Something's playing in the background. Hello, thank you for joining the KindHuman Story. It's still live in the background. Okay, I'll cut that part out. So thank you for joining, Kevin. We've known each other for quite some time now, and I know your story. I'm familiar with it, but I think when we talk about your journey, it's really interesting to see where you came from, and these things that you've overcome are really inspiring, and you're just like a continual source of inspiration. Dealing with the environment and your activism and just trying to get people healthy. So I commend you, Kevin. And I'm excited to hear your story again. Just quickly for myself, usually Allison and I co-host this call. She's in Thailand currently. So I wanted to just briefly describe our health journey. It started simply enough where Allison and I were, eating the standard American diet. She had been suffering with numerous health issues and was medicating. And me, myself, my chronic stuff was like asthma, allergies, breathing issues, gut issues, and I had excess weight. So when we discovered this, I came into it really skeptically. I didn't think it was any different than any of the other dehydrated food we tried, or supplements. We've been taking probiotics and thought we were really well informed on gut health. But when you understand the relationship between soil health and our gut, a lot new came to light, and we were experimenting on ourselves with the superfoods, with the gut repair, and what seemed to be just like everything else at the beginning turned out to be radically different, and we noticed benefits right away. I lost 30 pounds in 2 months, and my asthma and my allergies disappeared. Allison, transitioned off her medications. She was on Ritalin for ADHD since a young age, and she was taking antidepressants, uppers and downers, because her doctors weren't talking to each other, and suffering with a lot of digestive issues and sleep issues, and just overall mental well-being was not great. So we have this really impactful health transformation, and what we did with that was we shared it with other people. We wanted other people to feel this way too. And that's where Kevin came into our lives. He was also plant-based, and Allison and I and Kevin, we formed a relationship on just healthy eating, healthy living, trying to end animal suffering and heal the planet and each other at the same time. So it was all super aligned. And then Kevin, who has a really cool story. If you don't mind sharing where you were at, if you could just like paint a picture of where you were at health-wise and your journey. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I can definitely share what happened. I can take us back a little bit to where I was before. And I grew up I'm in San Diego here, and that's where I was born and raised. And like a lot of big cities, it's a big city. You have a lot of the things that happen where you get, wrapped up into like what you were saying, the standard American diet and convenience and fast food and quick. And then when I entered the restaurant industry, I was 16 years old. It was just my first job. I was just trying to do any job. It didn't really matter at the time, just any kind of money. And what happens in the restaurant industry, it's a very toxic industry. First of all, the food that you're consuming is oftentimes very, very low quality. And it's very rare that you just start off at the high end restaurants. Usually you start your way at the bottom, and you're very toxic, and the environments are toxic, and the food, and you start adapting a lot of those habits, even if you weren't maybe born into that, or wasn't part of your family. It becomes kind of like your culture. If you think about where you work, and where all of the places that we work, we spend so much time there. And so it's the environment starts to shift you into you. So you start going out for drinks, for alcohol is very, very common, so that led into, living that lifestyle. And at 25, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, as you can see. And how I knew, or how did I find out about that, is I started waking up every single morning in extreme pain, feeling like I was hit by a car or like in a car accident. And I've been in a car accident before. So I know what it feels like. My whole body was like in pain, but the most pain was in my spine. And it was causing my spine to really be heavily inflamed, and like nothing would work. I would try to take pain medication. I would try taking hot showers, cold showers, stretching, moving. The only thing that would work is just moving around long enough until the pain eventually went away. 2 hours, it would take like 2 hours or so before the pain would go away. And what's the big challenge with anyone with an autoimmune disease or anything like that is for this one or the internal ones is you can't see it. And so I think what a lot of people struggle with is that when you share that you have some kind of pain or you're hurting, you can't see it. It isn't so clear. Like if someone has severely overweight, you can see it. Or if someone has really bad skin issues, you can see it. It's very clear, but when it's on the inside, it's really hard to tell. That's why even sometimes when people talk about gut health, sometimes I wish you could just have like an x-ray machine or something where you could look inside and be like, look at what's happening in your gut. Let's take a look at it and see how it compares to a healthy gut. But you can't really see that, it's really hard to see. Similar with the autoimmune disease, it's hard to see. And so I was suffering like that for months and months and months. I was going to the chiropractor. I was trying any kind of medication over the counter, and I was reluctant to go to the hospital. I didn't want to go to the hospital because I think I was just raised that way. It was something that in America, it's so expensive. And so you think hospitals like last resort, like, emergency. I'm going to go there if there's something really, really terrible. And even if you have insurance, it could be expensive. And also there's just a lot of things like that. So eventually it was the last resort. I went there to the hospital and they diagnosed me with this autoimmune disease called ankylosing spondylitis, which is the name. And that's when I had a name. And a lot of people, when they get some kind of diagnosis or a name, they feel so much relief, right? Because they're like, oh my gosh, that's the answer. This explains this, and that explains that, and that explains this. And sometimes people, they will say, well, that explains how I am. That's just the way I am, and I can't change anything. Because what the doctors will tell you, especially for my situation and some other diagnoses, is they say you have this forever, it'll never go away, it's part of you, and there's no cure and there's no solution, and there's really not much you can do except for one thing. They'll tell you there's nothing you can do except for one thing. And I don't know how it is for every single situation, but for my autoimmune disease and a lot of them, they tell you that one solution is the medication, right? So that medication was $4,000 a month. And today, that same medication is $6,000 a month, which is really, really crazy. And most people can't afford that. So it actually took me 4 years before I was suffering of this every single night before something dramatic happened in my life. My dad committed suicide. And that was really dramatic and really shocking. And no one had any idea. And because of that happening, that made me make the decision to make a change in my life. And I went back to the hospital and I got the medication, and there's a bunch of other things that I wanted to change, but I said, I have to fix my health because this is not going so good, right? And what happens to a lot of people with this disease and similar other ones is it's actually there's a high rate of suicide in these people because they're told there's no option, there's no solution, and they end up giving up. There's no hope, because when you have no hope, and you feel like there's no way out and you're in such extreme pain, that's the solution that some people choose, right? And so I started taking the medication, and it led me to get really, really sick. The medication makes your immune system weak for a lot of these autoimmune diseases, and that led me to get really, really, really sick. And in my sickness, I was looking for answers, and I was like looking everywhere. Like, once again, like really, really sick, were feeling like I was gonna die. Like it was that kind of like the flu was so bad. And I watched a documentary called What the Hell while I was really sick. And that was the first time I was in the point of my life where I was like actually going to listen to anything health related, because to that point, I didn't listen to nothing. I didn't want to change. I didn't want to change how I ate. I didn't want to change anything. I wanted to keep the same lifestyle that I had. I felt like I was forced to change. So I was very, very resistant, and it took me like getting to that point. And so anyways, in the documentary, I talked about plant-based eating, and I decided to try that out. And I tried, cutting out animal products, and I felt a lot better, and the sickness went away. And that sparked my curiosity. I was like, whoa, I got to look into this a little bit more. I need to figure this out, like what's going on here. And it led me to start studying nutrition. It led me to start eating differently. It led me to start learning about food and recipes and all these different things. But I still couldn't like fix like the main issue that I had. It was my autoimmune disease. I was like really, really struggling with that. And I was looking for a lot of answers. And I even interviewed someone on my podcast who, the first person I met in my life who had reversed an autoimmune disease. And I was really blown away because I never met someone in person. And they shared me the story, and I learned a lot of stuff from them. And they shared all kinds of tips and talked a lot of stuff like medical medium and raw fruits and all these different things and superfoods and all these things that I hadn't really seen anywhere else or much people talking about. And I decided to try it. And I ended up giving up within not giving up, but I tried it and it was really, really hard. And I gave up within a few months because it was so time consuming. There was so much prep. There was so much cleanup. I was working like 60, 70 hours a week at my job. And I didn't have time to fit in like all these healthy habits that I really needed, to like feel better and finally get over my autoimmune disease. And it wasn't until I met Allison, your wife, and we were chatting for a while, but we did a podcast. And like, speaking of the podcast, I invited her on to talk about your kids and your children. And what we talked about was, healthy eating for kids, because there's a lot of stuff in the news at the time about kids and their diet and how they eat, and they should be eating meat and eggs and all these things. And I was like, let's talk to your family who is doing it, totally different from the norm, you know what I mean? And really healthy and thriving. And that's really what I wanted to share. And that conversation led me to learn about the other things that you guys were sharing as well, with gut health and high quality foods and nutrition. And that was the missing piece that I was looking for at the time. I was in search for a gut health solution. I was literally talking to different people at the time. And no one had an actual solution. They had all these tests. I didn't find solutions, but I found a lot of tests, how to test your gut health, right? For the bacteria and all that sort of stuff. But you guys had a solution for the gut health that made sense, like watching it and how it works and how it operates, it made sense. And also the nutrient dense foods. That was the other issue that I was having. I was living in the desert at the time. Literally, like, we have food deserts. I was living in the Middle East, like in a desert where it's where they imported almost all their food from different places where the nutrient density was very low. And they have a lot of health problems there in the Middle East, and they import almost all their food. And so anyways, I needed a solution there as well, right? So for nutrient dense foods. And I knew that was also the missing piece, because everything that I had learned about autoimmune disease and nutrition was like, you need the vitamins and you need the minerals, but actually I wasn't getting them, even though I thought I was getting them. I was like, I'm eating these foods, but I didn't realize that they were depleted. So those are the two missing pieces. And what I did was I put everything that I learned and all the things that you guys had shared, and I put it all together. It took me a few months before I was able to finally not have any symptoms of the autoimmune disease that I was suffering from. And the main symptoms are extreme pain, like tightness, stiffness, right? Like debilitating pain, where like you like really can't do anything for a while until your pain goes away. And it's very similar in some other situations with autoimmune diseases. There's other ones that are really painful as well, that really, really hurt. And they cause you to want to, they cause you to not want to do what you want to do. Like, you don't want to hang out with friends or family. You don't want to go eat. You just want to stay in bed for a lot of people. And it's really tough for some of them. So what happened was I learned that. And then I felt like I needed to share this. And it actually took me a while to share to other people, even though I had overcome this. It took me a few years to share. And I think it's the reason why a lot of guys, like I know Jared, and other guys and like that, it's not easy for us to share some of these struggles and some of these challenges that we go through. You hear it all the time, men struggling in silence, or like my dad, he committed suicide, didn't even tell no one. Like these things are happening, and you hear men like don't share their feelings and they keep it all inside, and they, all of those things are partly, some of it's maybe biological, some of it's maybe societal, ingrained in us, but there's a level of reluctance that I had of actually sharing, right? And I think I don't know, maybe there was some fear in there of even sharing what I went through. And so, but what I found when I started to share was other people that were going through some similar things, and other people that were suffering and other kinds of things, right? Like my cousin had diabetes as well, and my mom was on 25 medications, and they were able to get off their medications and get off, and not have these pain, from these diseases, and even my cousin is becoming like a vegan bodybuilder, and like there's so many other situations like that that aren't just from autoimmune disease. They just look at like you're eating better. Like I'm 35 right now, and almost everywhere I go, if I ask my age, they think I'm in my early 20s. And I really feel like I'm in my early 20s, and I feel like I'm reverse aging. And I think that that is something that people see and gravitate towards. And so now what I do is I created a group to help to share, for people with autoimmune disease. I help one-on-one, and I share these foods, and I share ways for people to help them feel better, and now, I know that you're going to share this system, and really the piece that we have, that anyone can do it. Because I think some people look at me and they're like, oh, well, I can never do that. Oh, well, that's so hard. Oh, well, I need to have nutrition. Oh, I need to overcome this thing. No, you don't need any of these things. I didn't need any of these things. I was just standing in my own way. And what Jared's going to share is like just a really easy way that like anyone could plug in to, and actually do it even without all these certificate or any kind of huge knowledge in nutrition, but anyways, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, that story is really impactful. And I think there's people who are struggling with autoimmune deficiencies, and, it's scary. It's like your body is attacking itself, and, you want answers, you want solutions, but unfortunately the medical route tends to be these temporary solutions, and there's side effects. So the longer game, the better investment it would be to try to do it a natural way, at least attempt to do that first, right? So when we personally had these transformations, we couldn't help but share it. Knowing I was reluctant to join a network marketing opportunity, MLM, based on all the taboos around it, a lot of, negative media surrounding MLMs. So I was really reluctant, same way I was reluctant to even start the food. But what I realized was that this stands apart, similarly to how the food may seemingly look like something else you've tried. It's radically different and really unique. So some of the benefits that come with the opportunity is that the same way it's hard to navigate what to be eating every day. It's hard to navigate the economy. Like, how can I be making extra income? Most people have trouble saving. So to have another income source is a real game changer, whether that's a few $100s a month or a few thousand, whatever your goals are. To have something else, another income source, could be just as drastically life-changing as a health transformation could be, because you're lowering your stress levels, and you have some security there, and also some new freedom. So Allison and I discovered that when we shared this, the food became free, essentially, because we got it covered for, which is amazing. Someone coming into this who wants to get started and is on a budget, they could essentially invest in a free business. It's included with the food gift card system, so that they could be generating an income and essentially pay for their food themselves and then some. So unlocking that abundance is basically embracing a new type of work. We had to shed the hours to dollars mentality, employee employer mindset, and step into this sharing economy. And a lot of it just has to do with being available, being a connector, helping other people even more so than yourself sometimes, which you in the place of service, this is really amazing because you're helping people get healthy, change their lifestyle, and vote with their dollar what kind of world they want to live in. So your superfood store, which is included, you can make your own hours, you're location independent. We travel all the time, and we basically can maintain that same work level wherever we are, as long as we have internet. And we've created a space where, even though we came from no sales background and no nutrition background, it is irrelevant because anyone could do this. They are just sharing their own personal stories and the stories of other people who've had drastic transformations as well. So what's on the table? When someone comes in, if they are interested in what the wealth opportunity that's included is, what could I be making potentially? So Purium has an incredible compensation plan where you're encouraged to go quickly and rewarded for doing so. And that essentially means that there's up to $30,500 in bonuses on top of your commission. So someone who starts may have one or two people who were curious to start. You're already entering the first consultant rank level at that stage. So you're getting consistent customers, you're getting $100 bonus for that. Some people even make it to this director level the first week or so after they enroll. So it's very doable, it's very possible. And, Kevin, you could speak to this as well, how this opportunity could help different types of people. But just in a snapshot of what a typical annual earnings looks like, when you first start, sure, it's not a lot. But if you're slowly building something up over time, and I think everyone has a couple hours a week to devote to a business opportunity, if you could commit to that, then you could be going up into the diamond levels where there's a profit sharing pool. You get a piece of what the whole company makes. And now Allison and I, in a few years, we're now at the 2-star crown level, and it's just transformed our lives completely. That kind of time freedom, location freedom is what we want others to have. So this is why we share it. Yeah, Kevin, do you mind? Spend a couple minutes on the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why that I'm so grateful for this is because I had looked for something like this for a long time that was residual, but also was ethical. And I think that that's one of the challenges that I found, was finding those two. As I started to be more conscious about my choices and where I spend my dollar, I actually looked at the way that I viewed certain industries was I was boycotting some of them. Like I was like, I'm choosing not to shop there. I'm choosing not to buy there. And with that choice, that led me, limited places to choose, where I was going, but also it led me the ability to choose how I want to work and how I want to help others as well. I started questioning other things like my place of work and where was that money going from. I even questioned, like, where's the money going from my bank? Like, where are they spending that money? Like, where is that going from? And so it just like, I started like learning a lot about that, and the way that I'm grateful for it. Even when I was doing ads before, on like running ads on a YouTube or running an ad on a podcast or something like that, I didn't feel in alignment with that, because I was like, I don't really believe in these things. And I don't believe in maybe the ads that are being shared that I don't have control over. Right. And so when I had control over choosing where, my work goes, I was really appreciative. But also the reason when I stop working, like exactly when I'm like, I'm not working now, I'm off, I'm going to go to Belize, I'm going to go on vacation, I'm going to go here, the money's still coming in, and that's great, because that's also what I was looking for. And I'm very grateful too, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, the MLM, the stigmas, right? The things that you were talking about. But the way that I look at it, when I make, someone purchases from me or someone makes a sale and, it helps you or whatever, I'm beyond grateful that I am helping you and your family, because I care about you and Allison, and I care about your kids and your children. And I spent time with you, and I spent time with them. And I am grateful that that also helps you. Whereas anywhere else I worked, whether any boss, I didn't really care about their family or the money that I was contributing to that business going, to that business, right? And so it was a different mind shift from that standpoint. But it's all gratitude. It's all positive, and it's all ethical, and it all aligns with me and what I want, but also with so many people. I think people do want that. They just are like, where does that exist?
Yeah.
And so that was very helpful for me.
That's really well put. And I think, yeah, when you exit that kind of matrix binary system, and visualize this as like a sharing tree, the way we're all collaborating and benefiting mutually from each other, it takes some changing, but it's well worth it. And it's the smartest investment I've ever made, hands down, because like you said, this is seemingly the fountain of youth when you could, alkaline yourself and not have to struggle anymore with chronic illness. So yeah, that's really just like a quick overview. You can reach out to Kevin or myself for more information, more details, but this is the new wave. This is how we're going to help each other, how we're going to regenerate the soil, and hopefully eliminate a lot of today's problems. So thank you, Kevin, for taking the time today. Appreciate you. And thank you for those who joined and watching the replay, and have a beautiful weekend, right?
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.